Okay, so I'm going to discuss today the Mitzvah Mezuzah. There is a unique protection that Hashem gives us through having a mezuzah, something that is unique among all mitzvot, that this mitzvah is specifically given to us to protect us. The Rebbe's emissary in Shangdo, his name is Rabbi Hennig. Rabbi Hennig, he had this issue. Still in China, the precautions in Corona are really, really severe. A lot of people left shortly after everything began because the kind of quarantines they did and stuff was really, really hard. So what happened? They didn't just quarantine a house or quarantine people. They quarantined blocks, quarantined a whole section of the city. So Rabbi Hennig, he comes back from he wanted to leave when this was going on. He came back and he discovered that the whole entire neighborhood was ransacked by thieves. So he comes to the entrance of his home, and the police officers say to him, "You can't go in. We have to first go in for you. Every home was ransacked first. We have to check it for clues first. So we're going to go in first, and then after we go in, you could check it out. You can go back to your home." So the police go in, and they come out, and they're all shocked. And they said these thieves went into every single home on this block. The only home they didn't go into was yours. A few weeks later, they call them up, and they say, "We come to headquarters. Come to police headquarters." He comes to the police headquarters. We caught the thieves, and the first question we asked the thieves was, "Why did they go into your home?" So the thieves said an amazing thing. They said, "We managed through the Wi-Fi to get into everyone's security system. But we saw in the entrance of this home there was a new kind of security which didn't go on Wi-Fi. They saw the mezuzahs. We figured these Israelis, came up with this new kind of system, and the truth is that of course they were right. That's something unique about the protection of mezuzah, which is beyond any security system." Rabbi David Grossman, who does amazing things in Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi actually once called him someone who does wondrous things. He's I think in Migdal HaEmek. He comes out to LA also very often.
Migdal HaEmek?
Ken, David Grossman, Makir?
No.
Ken. So his daughter, she was 16 years old. She had this. He told a story to a friend of mine just recently. It's a crazy, crazy story. So she was 16 years old. She had all of a sudden she woke up one morning and she has this big growth on her eye, this big bubble on her eye. And they went to all different hospitals in Israel, and every doctor had another opinion. One said you slept too little, one said you slept too much, one said you were angry, one said it's energy, one said it's this, one said it's that, until they discovered that there's a friend of theirs who knows some doctor in New Jersey who's really an expert, and he's a top world expert, so they're going to go to New Jersey. They come to New Jersey, they managed to arrive at 6 o'clock a.m., JFK, they managed to get an appointment with him at 8 o'clock in the morning, and he at that time, he was in the late 80s, 89 I think, he had all these different kinds of sophisticated machinery to take pictures of the eye that wasn't around at that time. He had this unique, I don't know what it's called even, that he used to take pictures of the eye. And after he does this, he says, "Come back in 3 days. And in 3 days, I'm going to tell you what I discovered." Okay, they finished the appointment, and his daughter says, "Listen, let's go to the Rebbe." Okay, so they go together to the Rebbe. They go quickly from New Jersey. They arrive. The Rebbe comes in every morning to Shacharit at 10 o'clock in the morning. They come to the Rebbe's shul, and Rabbi Grossman, he's so upset about the situation with his daughter. So when the Rebbe walks into the synagogue, he just stands in front of the Rebbe and he says, "Rebbe, my daughter." This point is my daughter. He's so upset. He starts crying. The Rebbe sees his daughter. It's obvious that the issue is there's a huge growth on her eye. So the Rebbe says, "Check the mezuzahs, make sure the mezuzahs are in order, and everything will be fine. And torah chup ma'asim tov. You take her to her wedding, everything will be fine." Okay. So they right away call Israel, and they call up she was studying in yeshiva in Sfas at the time. I don't know which yeshiva it was, somewhere in Sfas. They checked the mezuzah in her dorm room, and they discover that the mezuzah is missing a whole word. Which word? Einecha, your eyes. They fix the mezuzah. 12 hours later, her eye. She told her father, I feel something moving in my eye. 12 hours later, her eye is completely fine. But they had an appointment with this doctor in New Jersey, and they were going to keep their appointment. So they came back to the doctor. Hi. The doctor looks at them. He says, I'm practicing for 17 years. I never saw anything like this. This is a total miracle. But this is not the end of the story. Rabbi Grossman meets his doctor, I don't know how many years later, in a synagogue. This guy became a Baal Teshuvah. New Jersey. No. The doctor became a complete observant Jew because of the miracle he saw with his eyes. Because he says, you brought me back to Judaism, seeing with his own eyes the power of Mezuzah, which is actually...
We didn't hear the story in Migdal Haemek.
Okay, I have a video of it.
I grew up on Rabbi Grossman, I swear.
I believe that there. If you want, I have a video of him saying the story. I have a video. I'll send it to you.
It's good. Now I'm going to go to Migdal Haemek. I'm going to tell them.
So anyways, as we're coming to the month of Elul, this Shabbat blesses the month of Elul. It's time to check the mezuzot, check the tefillin.
Every year?
Every year. Although halachically it's kosher to check the mezuzot twice every 7 years. However, the Rebbe said, first of all, if you need additional blessing, you should check it every year. And second of all, today, unfortunately, there's so many non-kosher mezuzot. I've seen, instead of mezuzah, an English translation of the Ten Commandments, all kinds of crazy things which are there. And unfortunately, it's not that the most mezuzot are kosher and some aren't. Most mezuzot aren't kosher. Most of them, unfortunately, in the market aren't kosher.
What's in Cedar Sinai?
I always wondered that. I don't know.
What's going on over there?
So I asked some, I did some research. I know there were once kosher mezuzah. I know what is there now.
All of them?
They were once put up as there was something in there. I don't know what's going on there now. Originally there was some. That's what I heard. I don't know. Anyways,
I don't know how it's such a tiny thing.
It's so tiny, so flat.
The Talmud, the Torah. He says, mezuzah is an incredible blessing. Why is it an incredible blessing? It protects your life. And not only does it protect your life, it protects your home. That's the words, right? It's bigger than protecting your life, it protects your home. The question is, why is that bigger? Why is that bigger? It's more than protects your life, protects your home. It's like the guy who gets held up, your money or your life? 1 second, let me think about it. So how can the Torah say it's more, not only does it protect your life, protects your home? What does it mean? So Beit Yosef says that when regarding mezuzah protection of your life, you could argue if it's a miracle or not. It's a miracle which isn't seen to your eyes, but the protection of the mezuzah to your home is something which is a nice. This is his words, an open miracle. You could see that the homes that have a mezuzah have more protection of God. It's something. It's an open miracle. That's what he says. The Talmud says that there was a sage named Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi. Yehuda Hanassi had a non-Jewish friend who was very famous named Antoninus, who became a Roman emperor. Besides his Roman emperor friend, he had another non-Jewish friend whose name was Artavan, who was a prominent minister, a Persian minister. Now, Artavan once sent Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi a gift. The gift was this very special, very precious, expensive diamond. A diamond which he said, he writes to Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi along with the gift, I'm sending you a gift which there's no parallel for. Let's see what you can send me back. Okay? Yehuda Hanassi send him back, he sent him back a mezuzah. So, the question is, why did he send him a mezuzah? Actually, the halacha is, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. The reason is because perhaps you send a mezuzah to someone who doesn't appreciate the value of it. The Ramah writes, they may put the mezuzah next to their idol worship. But Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi sent him mezuzah. Artaman is very unimpressed with the mezuzah. He says, I sent you a gift, no parallel for, what are you sending me? So Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi said, your gift is something which needs protection. This is something which will protect you. So, but the question is, why does it protect him? What's so good about the mezuzah? It's not a mitzvah to give a mezuzah to someone that doesn't even have this obligation. So it seems, as from Maimonides, that the main power of mezuzah is because of the mitzvah mezuzah, because God gave us commandment for it. And here, he just sends a mezuzah to someone who does no obligation to have this. And according to the Ramah, you're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to send someone a gift of mezuzah. I think one of you asked me that in the past, allowed to send a gift of mezuzah. And I said, you are. I made a mistake. You're not allowed to send a gift as a mezuzah. Why did Yudasi do it? Why was he allowed to? So different commentaries say different reasons. The Netziv says the reason he was allowed to do it was because it wasn't a regular mezuzah. He wrote this mezuzah himself specifically for Artavan. So it wasn't a regular mezuzah. Mezuzah written for him. The Rabbi Moshe says that Artaban wasn't. He was also Jewish. He wasn't really knowledgeable about Judaism, but he had an obligation to have mezuzah. In fact, the Achai Goyim says that Artaban had a daughter, and all of his friends, when he received the mezuzah, said to him, "What is this foolish little piece of paper the rabbi gave you? You gave him a dime, and he just gave you a piece of paper." So shortly afterwards, one of his daughters, and I think only had one daughter actually, she became insane, and he had put the mezuzah, like he didn't care about it, and then he put the mezuzah on her door, and miraculously, as soon as he put the mezuzah on the door, she recovered. So we see the mezuzah has a benefit even when it's not a mitzvah, according to those commentaries who say that he wasn't obligated to have mezuzah. So the question is, what is the mezuzah without it being a mitzvah? What is it? So yesterday was the anniversary of the passing of Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi's father, who was an incredible Kabbalist, and just if you want to see the infinity of Torah, the magic of Torah, just read his writings. It may be a lot of Kabbalah, but you can just tell from the numbers and the connections that just something unique in his teachings, which I don't think that existed before. The kind of questions the way he analyzes Torah, I don't have enough knowledge to say that it didn't exist before, but just like so remarkable the kind of things he points out. The distance between two words from another word, why they these words away. Like he even wrote, I met this person on this day, on this city. Why did he meet this person at this age, in this city? And explains according to Kabbalah, each place he's in, and why he met this person, and why this specific juncture in his life, why it was this time of the year. So anyways.
It's not about the Rebbe like that also. I mean, it's Monday, this Monday.
Right.
Like was into the details that.
Right.
That we see arbitrary. Nothing is arbitrary.
Right. So regarding mezuzah, it says in the Zohar, Rabbi Abba says, you should put a mezuzah on your door. God says, write my name and put it on the door, and that will protect you. So the question is, what does the Zohar mean when it says, write my name on the door? Write Simche, put the name there. So the Sparks of Light, Nitzutzi Or, the commentary of the Zohar, he says, the word mezuzah is the numerical equivalent to 65. 65 is the name of Hashem, Aleph Dal Nun Yud. The name of Hashem Adonai is equal to 65. That's what the Nitzutzi Or says. The problem is, it doesn't say the word. Hashem says, put my name on the door. That's not the name. Al Bal Nonu is not the name of Hashem. So Rabbi Yitzchak says, so he's in other commentaries in the Zohar, that it's actually referring to the name of Hashem on the outside of the mezuzah. The name Shin Dal Yud. Shin Dal Yud, which is on the outside of every mezuzah, is an acronym for the words. According to one opinion, God guards the doors of the Jewish people, God guards the homes of the Jewish people. Shomer Daltot Yisrael. So you're supposed to write that name of Hashem to correspond to the inside of the mezuzah. In the inside of the mezuzah, there is the name of Hashem also. It's actually not written as the name of Hashem. It's just the beginning of the second paragraph of Shema. V'haya im Shema. It will be, if you listen to my voice, God says, I will give you these blessings. So you're supposed to have the word V'haya to correspond to the name of Hashem on the outside of the mezuzah, the name Shindal Yud. So Rabbi Yitzchak says, so if you add the word Shindal Yud, which is 314, with the name Vahaya, which is equal to 26. 26 plus 314 is equal to the name Shin Mem, which is 340. And 340 means Shem is name. So you see how, when it says in the door, put my name on the door, it doesn't just mean any name. It means the names of Hashem which are equal to the name, to Shin Mem. That's just the simple meaning of the Zohar of Rabbi Yitzchak. But he also explains why this is in the front and that's in the back and why they're together. And that's for another time. Anyways, so the Zohar says the word mezuzah is a nutrikun for two words, zaz mavet, to push death aside. Rabbi Groner, alav shalom, he once said that, I don't know exactly what the Rebbe's instructions were, but something like part of like intake when people ask for a blessing is to ask them to check mezuzah. If they didn't check mezuzah within 12 months, that's the first thing you do. The first thing you want to do. Auto response. Before you've been asking them any questions, just the mezuzah within 12 months and its tefillin should be checked. That's the first thing you do. So
tefillin also every Elul.
Tefillin also every Elul. The Mate Ephraim. It's not just a Hasidic idea. There's one of the most popular books on halacha was written by the Mate Ephraim, accepted by all the Jewish people, and he writes in every Elul, the month before Shoshana, you check your mezuzah. You're supposed to check yourself. Check yourself. What are you supposed to check inside yourself? So check your thoughts, your speech and action. But the first thing you check is in mezuzot and tefillin, a lot of things that we don't realize have such a big effect on us, and they're around us all the time, and we don't think, oh, it's a big deal. But it's constant. And mezuzah is something which just changes the very energy of where you are. I shared this story before. I don't know if you remember. The Rebbe once was invited to this brit milah of Rabbi Chitzuk from Tzfat. And the Rebbe walked into the synagogue on Kingston Avenue. The Rebbe puts his hand on mezuzah. Mezuzah needs to be changed. Mezuzah darf sich weiten. And of course, mezuzah wasn't. So it's not something that we ourselves, would have any knowledge of, that we would. Mezuzah has to be changed. Anyways, so I don't know what shul it was. It was years ago. The time of Rabbi Chitzuk from Tzfas. He's in 70 something. Anyways, so the point is that mezuzah has in it two sections of Shema, and there's holiness in them themselves. Here, Eitan, it's not just because of the mitzvah mezuzah. Rebbe sent this as a gift to his friend Artavan because the mitzvah mezuzah, even when it's not a mitzvah, it already has a protection. The previous Rebbe on his desk, he had a mezuzah. The Rebbe told different people, different occasions, different reasons to put a mezuzah. I don't. To put the mezuzah, I think, and take a mezuzah with you to the hospital. The Talmud says that it was a certain kind of stick. The Talmud talks about in laws of purity. The Talmud mentions a certain kind of thing that they had in those days, a stick where they had a little place for a tube to put a mezuzah inside it. So people would go for a long trip. They wouldn't have mezuzah. They would take that stick with them to have mezuzah with them. So even if it's not a mitzvah, there is something about the mezuzah. That's why Rebbe sent this as a gift. Of course, we shouldn't do this ourselves, but that just tells you how powerful it is mezuzah. Now, I do want to point out that that's just a little bit of protection of mezuzah. Many, many times, the issue is not that the mezuzah isn't kosher, just even put on the right way. Having mezuzah put on correctly on the where it's supposed to be is important, as important as mezuzah being kosher. That's part of the kosher, the kashrut of the mezuzah, is that it should be placed in the correct place. And I also want to give an advertisement.
Height and angle. Height and angle.
Angle, whatever, different customs. That's a part of custom, their custom, Hashem, their custom. They're both kosher, they both bring protection, you do what your custom is.
Oh, you don't do angles?
Listen, that's a tomato thing. It doesn't matter. That's your custom.
Shabbatshalom, I have to go.
So,
Successful meeting.
Eitan, מתי אתה בודק מזוזות? אתה בודק מזוזות? So I'm doing advertisement. Let's go to advertisement. If you try to check mezuzah next week or the week after, it'll be a lot harder because people are already before Elul. Everyone checks mezuzah. All those sofrim are very busy. So try to check next week before Elul starts is the best time. The sofrim aren't busy, and right away to check your mezuzot and the film.
Not yet, Rabbi. You can scan the mezuzah and it tells you. Not yet.
Okay. Anyways, that's the bottom line.
They use scanners.
Yeah.
So anyways, this mitzvah, all of our mitzvah has some kind of function, kind of purpose. This mitzvah, as Unkelus says, is not a mitzvah that has any function or purpose. This mitzvah is just a gift of love from Hashem to us, and something we should share with other people. That for any reason, whatever's going on in their life, a Jew needs a blessing for whatever it is, to tell other Jews that this mezuzah has a blessing in it, it's protection, and it's real. The Ben Bachaya says, you know why the Torah says it's bigger than saving your life? Because it's not like God bringing out the mitzvah. It's about you. God's giving you a mitzvah because He loves you. I just want to conclude with one last story because Mendel has to go. The Talmud says that Hadrian had a nephew named Unkelus. Unkelus is the one who is in every Chumash when it translates the Torah. So Unkelus converted to Judaism, and he had to do this in secret because the uncle, didn't like Jews. So he had this very conniving way of convincing his uncle to let him leave to go explore the world. He said to his uncle, give me some advice in business. His uncle says, here's my advice. Buy something no one appreciates and sell it when the price goes up. Something that has potential. Anyways, long story short, he discovers that his nephew becomes Jewish. He sent 3 groups of soldiers to talk to Unkelus, to bring him back, not to talk to him, to forcibly bring him back home to Rome to convert. He should get this old Jewish thing. He's the emperor's nephew. The 2 groups of soldiers come, and Unkelus explains to them what he's doing, and wow, it's amazing. They all convert to Judaism too. The 3rd group, Hadrian said, don't say anything to him, don't say a word to him. So Unkelus, you have to understand this is Unkelus. It's not just a regular person. So it wasn't just like the words he said; it was who he was also. He comes to the door, he kisses the door, and he smiles. They were very curious. Even though he told them not to speak to them, penalty of death, whatever, they were curious. So he says, Hadrian told him not to speak to you. We have to know why. What is it you think? You kissed him, why are you smiling? He says, listen, have you ever heard of a situation where And if the emperor stands outside and he guards his soldiers, like no, the soldiers stand outside and guards the emperor. He says that's what the mezuzah is. God stands outside our door and guards us. That's the meaning of mezuzah. That's why it's such a great blessing to have mezuzah. And in the Shema, in the mezuzah, we have the Shema. Where what do we do? We say Shema. We cover our eyes, right? We cover our eyes. Say Shema. Why do we cover our eyes? Even when the great darkest moments, we know Hashem is with us. And mezuzah protects us from those darkest things and all good things to be added blessing. Hashem should bless us all to have real protection for all Am Yisrael wherever they are. And we should see the real protection, prostate Shalom, come back to Shalom with Mashiach Tzidkenu today. L'chaim.